Today we're going to be taking a look at Telcoin. Now buckle up guys, Telcoin is going to be pretty big. Telcoin just recently released a new update called V3. Now V3 completely revolutionizes the Telcoin system as we had known it previously. So before it had been mostly a governance token with an SMS payment system that had been based on interactions between payment processors using the Telcoin system as a kind of governance token as a placeholder. They hadn't really onboarded their full spectrum of what they were trying to do yet. In fact, they had played it very close to the chest, in fact, of what they were trying to do. Now, what they have actually accomplished here is actually quite impressive. They've moved away from having these payment processors based on these phones and moved more into the DeFi space. So what they've done, if you know anything about DeFi, is you have these things called liquidity pools, and these liquidity pools create liquidity for the market, and remittances need a lot of liquidity. As a result, these liquidity pools generate a lot of fees because there's a base fee that you generate when you are utilizing a liquidity pool. And this gives a lot of value to the system, because one of the major drawbacks of a liquidity pool, if it's not being used, is that you're not generating much fees, and then you have the whole impermanent loss risk aspect. Well, if you're generating a lot of fees by using a remittance system for either country-to-country remittance payments, or you're using just for average everyday payments, you can actually generate a huge amount of liquidity, and as a result, a huge amount of fees. Even if the fees are relatively small as a total percentage of the transaction. And this creates a lot of value for the person who's actually staking into these pools. Now, that's kind of like the overall view of what I'm talking about here. We're going to go more into detail about how the new network is. It's based on 3 layers, and I'll show you that here. So this is the new setup here. So V3 has an interface layer, and this is the app that you have on your phone. It's what the everyday user will see when they interact with the application. It's not what you're making the money off of, though. What you're making the money off of as a liquidity provider is here in the marketplace layer. And currently, though, what they're using is QuickSwap, as you can see here, and DFX. Now, DFX is actually a Polygon-based blockchain. They're actually going to be moving onto the Polygon network to make their fees more reasonable. As anyone knows who's used Ethereum, Ethereum has very high fees, and that's not really plausible or useful for any kind of person who's doing a real payment processor. So they've adapted the network to use Polygon, and this is going to help them reduce fees and make themselves more competitive with legacy systems like MoneyGram. And as an additional bonus as well, you'll be gaining fees that MoneyGram would usually have been making. Now, to further clarify here, this Rivendell here, this is also be running on Polygon, and Polygon runs on Ethereum. That's why you see Ethereum here. This is actually a side chain that's built on Polygon, and this is going to have its own validator nodes, and these validator nodes are going to be exclusive to the partnership list. And I'll show you the partnership list here, because the partnership list is quite extensive. Now here's a partnership list. As you can see, they have many different partnerships with many different payment providers across the world. They have countries as far as Bangladesh all the way to Samoa, Pakistan, Philippines. These countries are actually quite dependent upon remittances for a lot of their day-to-day living expenses. As a result, they're going to be generating a lot of fees based on the system, and if you can actually use your fees that you generate and stake them back into the system, if you're not even using them, you can actually generate passive income. So instead of keeping it in a bank, you can keep it in this app and actually generate passive income on your remittance payments that you haven't used yet. So think about that as a revolutionary way to provide value to people who would normally just have to take this in cash, deal with the risk of getting robbed on the way home from the MoneyGram store. And now they don't have to do any of that. They can actually make passive income. It's a complete benefit to the person over the existing system. And I can't see the existing system continuing to be able to compete with this in the long run, because there's too many advantages. The only disadvantage is the complexity, and that can be solved over time and through applications. Applications will make it more simple and easy to use as well. Between all of these payment processors, and don't be kidding yourself here, they're adding more payment processors all the time as well. Between all these payment processors, they currently have access to 700 million customers. Now, all of them aren't using remittances, but they all are using this program. And if these programs actually start to onboard Telcoin as their main system, because it's cheaper for them potentially, or they're getting more revenue through their validation on the Rivendell system, they could eventually onboard all of those people potentially. And that is a massive market cap in terms of what you're looking at for the potential growth in the future of this coin. Now I'm going to be looking a little deeper here into the Telex exchange. So the Telex exchange is the exchange that you and me would use if we were to provide liquidity to the network. The Rivendell is not for us. It's for the payment providers, payment processors that have been onboarded in the beginning. They're going to be running their own thing. But this is for us. If we're going to be providing liquidity to the market, this is what we're going to be using here. Currently what they're using is QuickSwap as their main automated market maker for producing their liquidity. I've heard rumor that eventually they'll be switching over to Balancer just because of the ratios are more adjustable. So as a result of being a remittance system, they need to have large amounts of liquidity in the system, and there's a limited amount of Telcoin. So QuickSwap requires a 50-50 split for your liquidity pool, 50% Telcoin, 50% stablecoin, but Balancer allows you to adjust that. You can have 20%, this is what they're looking for eventually from what the rumor that I've heard, 20% Telcoin and then 80% stablecoin. And this allows you to provide a lot more liquidity into the system and allows for the remittance system to be more functional for larger percentages of the planet. Now, this is what the system currently looks like. So you can stake Matic, Quick, Tel to Quick, Tel to Ethereum, Tel to BTC, Tel to Aave. But there's also here, I'll show you. Now this is on the QuickSwap actual DeFi swap. See, they have USDC here as well. They have Uni, USDT, DAI, and you're looking at this. There's a lot of different options, and this is just the beginning here. So there's going to be a significant increase in this because, as you can see, there's only 8 million currently locked up in liquidity. That's very small for a liquidity pool of the size that we're talking about here. You could see this liquidity pool being anywhere up of 400, 500 billion in sometime in the future just for Telcoin because of the nature of what it's trying to capture in terms of the industries it's going after. Currently, the global remittance system itself is a $700 billion a year industry. That is just for remittances, not really if we're going to a decentralized payment system. If everybody's paying on this decentralized payment system, no longer through banks, through credit cards, you're talking about a significant increase in that than what we see currently. Now what we're seeing here, this is the Rivendell. I want to go over this here real quick for you so you have an idea of what the purpose of Rivendell is. So basically this is the settlement layer. This is the layer that's going to be running most of the blockchain that allows them to do these remittances much cheaper than what they'd have to do if they're running them on, say, something like the Ethereum network or just even the Polygon network. It also incentivizes the companies that have been onboarded that would have been cut out because of the blockchain nature of this. It allows them to be onboarded into the new system and not be left behind, and it also allows their existing customer base to be given access to the Telcoin system. So as you can see, what they're aiming for here is domestic payments, international remittances, asset exchanges, so you're talking about stablecoins to Telcoin and to other cryptos as well, lending in money markets, which this is what we're talking about here with Aave, and as well as the liquidity pools, regulated securities, so that's actually pretty big, is anyone who knows anything about how big that market is, as well as full stacks financial applications. So what you're talking about here is kind of a holistic approach that they're trying to go for here. Telcoin is not trying to play small here. They're playing small only in their marketing because they're focused purely on building out their infrastructure, getting their partnerships done. They're not really concerned about building out their value of their coin. I think because they believe and they know, and they're probably going to be right, that their coin is going to be large regardless of whether they market it or not. So they're not really interested in making the value larger than it needs to be because they know that when they get onboarded completely into the global system, that they will be one of the kingpins of the settlement system for payments, basically. So currently they're trying to build out the liquidity portion of their exchange so they are actually able to service these remittances. They're not in the viability stage yet. As you can see here, they're looking to get that done by August. So the window here, there's some news building up, and this will probably see if we hit this market turnaround here soon. We'll probably see a switch in the current viability of the price, and it will probably start to climb because buy the rumor, sell the news. Now to switch gears on you for a second here. So there was recently a bill passed in Nebraska. It was called Bill 649, also known as the Nebraska Financial Innovations Act. And this was the attempt of Nebraska, and a successful attempt in my opinion, to basically provide competition to the state of Wyoming. So Wyoming has been making a lot of advances in the crypto space, becoming very well known as being a very crypto-friendly state. Nebraska has actually started to change and actually mimic that behavior. And as a result, they have included this new bill here, what this bill does basically is it allows for cryptocurrency companies to make deals by moving their base of operations to the state of Nebraska and then getting charters with existing banks in Nebraska to be able to hold and then mint, and this is the big deal right here, mint their own stable coins based on the currencies that they are given. So for a remittance payment system, that is incredibly important and also incredibly innovative. So what you're talking about here is if you deposit, say, 500 USD, they can mint their own version of USD. So it could be like something like EUSD or TUSD if it's like Telcoin USD. That one already exists, but you get my idea. So as a result, they're able to do this with any kind of currency anywhere in the world. So this allows for traditionally countries that didn't have a value for a stablecoin to be developed because their currency wasn't large enough or wasn't attractive enough to be made a stablecoin for. Now it allows them to just mint it at will based on the amount of currency that they have on their own holdings, basically. And what we're talking about here is a bill that was actually put forward specifically by a Senator Flood, who was college roommates with the sitting CEO of Telcoin, Paul Nooner, and they obviously have a deal. Then they've been good on each other, so they know what to do with this, and then they're taking it forward, and they're actually doing. This bill has been passed, and they're actually doing great strides to actually bring the headquarters of Telcoin into Nebraska, and then to actually get a deal. So currently, Telcoin is in talks with 10 different banks, and they're going to announce they could announce a partnership, but that's not really how Telcoin operates. Telcoin operates kind of in the shadows. They don't care so much about marketing, and that's how they roll. So if you're looking for a media hype storm around Telcoin, it's not going to happen from them. It's only going to happen once they're fully enabled, they're fully on board, and they're actually starting to do massive remittance payments across the world. I don't think that they can handle the amount of volume that they need to currently to be in that kind of position, and that might be why they don't do that. So once they're fully onboarded, they're fully activated, they have the liquidity needed to be able to service these remittance markets, I think that's when we'll see the marketing start to develop, and we'll see the big price jumps start to come. So as you can see, Telcoin has a lot going for it, and it's only going to have more as time goes on, and you're not going to hear about it until it's already been enabled. So if you want to be an early adopter, I would recommend, this is not financial advice, I would recommend taking a look at this in a deeper level and seeing what you think. Leave a message in the comments, tell me what you think about this project. I'm curious to hear what the community has to say. This is going to be a good one in my opinion, and I look to see if you guys agree or if you guys feel differently. So this is Redbear signing off.